Welcome to another video from Lawyer Society. In this video, we will be talking about an interesting connection between the Specific Relief Act of 1963 and the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. Now, basically, in the Specific Relief Act, you have chapters 7 and 8, which come under Part 3 of the Act. And chapters 7 and 8 basically give you three kinds of injunctions. They are generally called as preventive reliefs under this act. The first kind of injunction is temporary injunction. The next is perpetual. The third is mandatory injunctions. We will be looking at the difference between these injunctions in a different video, but in this video we'll be talking about temporary injunctions in specific. Temporary injunctions, as per section 37, they are regulated by the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. If you go to the Code of Civil Procedure, Order 39 deals with temporary injunctions. So now if we proceed to section 41 of the Specific Relief Act, if you look at clause E, it reads, an injunction cannot be granted to prevent the breach of a contract, the performance of which would not be specifically enforced. So if an injunction is sought in a matter which is involving a contract, the injunction cannot be granted if the contract itself cannot be specifically enforced. If we want to know which contracts can be specifically enforced, we should look at Chapter 2 of the Specific Relief Act 1963. So if you read Section 10, which comes under Chapter 2 of this Act, it says that the specific performance of a contract shall be enforced by the court subject to the provisions contained in subsection 2 of Section 11, Section 14 and Section 16. So only if the conditions specified under all these provisions are satisfied, you can be in a position to claim specific performance of a contract before a court, and if they are all satisfied, the court is bound to make that order, because the word used here is shall. So when you read all these provisions together, does it imply that even temporary injunctions are governed by section 41 clause E? The answer is no, because since temporary injunctions are regulated by the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, the principles regulating whether a temporary injunction can be granted or not are those which are already settled by the courts of law in various cases where Order 39 has been discussed in specific. So 41E is not applicable insofar as temporary injunctions in contractual matters are concerned. Only perpetual and mandatory injunctions are governed by section 41 clause E of the Specific Relief Act 1963. For this, if you want to know a specific case where this has been said, you can refer to the case of Bestsellers Retail India Private Limited versus Aditya Birla Nuvo Limited. This was reported in 2012 5 SCR 834, and here a division bench of the Honorable Supreme Court has held in specific that section 37 of the said act makes it clear that temporary injunctions are to be regulated by the CPC and not by the provisions of the Specific Relief Act 1963. In fact, the application for temporary injunction of respondent number 1 before the trial court is under the provisions of Order 39 Rules 1 and 2 read with section 151 of the CPC. It has been held by this court in Kishore Singh Ratan Singh Jadeja vs Maruti Corporation and others that it is well established that while passing an interim order of injunction under Order 39 Rule 1 and 2 of CPC, the court is required to consider whether there is a prima facie case in favor of the plaintiff, whether the balance of convenience is in favor of passing the order of injunction, and whether the plaintiff will suffer irreparable injury if an order of injunction would not be passed as prayed for. Hence, we only have to consider whether these settled principles relating to grant of temporary injunction have been kept in mind by the trial court and the high court. So you do not need to satisfy the provisions under section 11, 14 and 16 of the Specific Relief Act in order to be able to claim temporary injunction in contractual matters. But only in case of perpetual and mandatory injunctions you have to satisfy all those, so that you are able to show that the contract itself can be enforced as per Chapter 2 of the Specific Relief Act 1963, and thereafter you are satisfying section 41 clause E, so then you can get a mandatory or a perpetual injunction subject to the other conditions regarding those injunctions, which we will be seeing in the subsequent videos. But right now I think you would have understood how this works, 41E and Order 39 of CPC. If you found this information useful, do subscribe to Lawyer Society on YouTube, and if you also want to listen to all these audios You can subscribe or follow us on Spotify, where we have a legal podcast which you can listen to whenever you have time. And if you are interested to read any magazines where you can read all these interesting interpretations and how we can read these provisions, you can subscribe to the Lawyers Society Digital Law Magazine. I will leave the link below in the description box. And if you want to join any WhatsApp group where you can have such interesting conversations, then you can join our WhatsApp groups where we have several lawyers who come and interact. We have healthy conversations regarding the law. You can participate and you can also share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you. Until next time.